open wide to embrace your dreams. Sometimes you gotta take a loss just to get the win. Like lots of stems popping it like oxygen when boxes wet. Focus on the mental, never lose like smooth instrumental. Better choose on the move in a pinto. Choose what I get to, never lose move on the move, but it's simple. Never give up and we running it maybe. We just keep winning, we conquering daily. Envision that pay me is never the
I'm on mute. Great way to start. Welcome in, everybody. It's Tuesday night here on Divots and Pivots, brought to you by Acorn Hills, acornhillsco.com. Get over the yes. Bud's got the swag on. I almost just called you Bryson. We'll get to that. Because obviously he's on the mind. But yeah, get over there, get your get all the latest gear over there with the discount code TBFY15. Get your 15% off as well. And we are in full-blown recovery mode from a Masters weekend that was unforgettable for lots of different reasons. But before we dive straight into that, we got to do a morale check. Bud, how's it hanging tonight? New location? Are you away, or are you just in the kitchen tonight?
The roommates in Maine for a couple days, saying bye to her. Well, they're celebrating her grandfather. He passed last week. Shout out Pepe and the crew.
Wow.
He was lived full life, that kind of deal. I mean, says the young people, right? I know people are older. They're like,
Right.
It's easy for you to fucking say.
Yeah.
Pardon my language. No. So that being said, yeah, we're upstairs at Witch City Studios. So apologies for any kind of echo or background noise. The intern's just over there watching Aladdin. I think it's a classic movie. She says, you need to kill 75 minutes. She says, Aladdin. I said, done. So we might get a visit from the intern, but morale's super high. Like you said, we're coming off once in a generation moment for sports. But before we get that deep, speaking of Acorn Hills, we got Earth Day coming up. And so Nate, I still owe you a little something for that. But if you don't know anything about Acorn Hills, they are they're a clothing brand that's focused on sustainability. That little thing that Andrew, if you're listening to the pod, he's holding up a hang tag, and it's seed paper. I mean, it's one of the most brilliant kind of connections ever. Like, hey, what is this shit that we have to put on our material so that we know what it is, what it costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Make it seed paper. You can chuck it on the ground. It'll biodegrade, but I say save it and plant it somewhere. Coop and I have a stack of them that we're going to plant here in the next couple of weeks. So acornhillsco.com. Shout out our boy, Nate. Yeah. All right. Now that that's over with, where in the heavenly hell okay, before we start on the actual facts of things.
Yes.
I kind of want to just skip to the end and say, this is where I hope all of this unfolds. Imagine a world where one of two things happens. By the way, full disclosure, none of this is going to happen. I'm just saying, come on, sure. Now the table is set. We'll start with the obvious, the Rory slam. So, he won the Players. So, first of all, the only people to have the career Grand Slam and the Players, Jack and Tiger. And then when Tiger had his Tiger Slam, which was all four majors at one time, not the same calendar year, he looped around and snagged the Masters. But before he snagged that Masters, he snagged the Players. So the Tiger Slam is actually all four at the same time and the Players. So Rory can do it, though, a one-up. We could get the Rory Slam or the mixed slam
all the same year.
In the same year, because it lines up like this. We're going to Quail Hollow in a month. PGA Championship. If you know anything about golf or dishwashers, if you know anything about golf, Rory, that's his course. He's a horse for that course. That's his Bay Hill to Tiger. He's won, I think, 4 times there. He can tear that place up. So the PGA Tour is going to do its damnedest to, I would say, remedy that black eye that was Valhalla last year, just because 20-something under is not a major championship score, unless there's one person at 20-something under and they're 15 shots ahead. Right. It's like Pebble Beach the year that Tiger won by 15. He was the only one under par. That's just different. Yeah. So Rory at Quail Hollow sets up nice for him. And then he said in an interview in the last 48 hours or whatever, he's excited about Royal Portrush to go home. And there is this burden lifted. And Paul McGinley from Live at the Golf Channel, I like to give him a little rough time, but I mean, I think he would enjoy it. He was doing Sky Sports for the Masters, and then he was back with the Golf Channel. And he's been saying it for a while now that if Rory can break through and get a major, he's going to gobble up a handful. He did it the first time around. This is how these guys operate. And ironically enough, you have to ask the question. You got Xander, so Royal Portrush sets up sweet for him. And then before that, he's got to go through Oakmont in the U.S. Open. He's a U.S. Open champ. He knows how to get her done. I'm not too concerned about that.
No,
so there's the Rory Slam. The other one that I would think, though, and this just goes to the next tournament and not beyond. What if Jordan Spieth can all of a sudden get his career Grand Slam at the next PGA? That's what we're going to be talking about leading into that.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the next one. Because if he snags that, then I want to go even further out and say, Phil, you're up. You got to go get that U.S. Open at Oakmont now. We got to keep the train. I would be, if Jordan Spieth wins the PGA and gets his career Grand Slam, I will actually play golf left-handed. That's how get into, well, if you're ever going to do it, the stars are aligning. Rory did, Jordan did his. But in all seriousness, where do you want to start? Because this is one of the absolute biggest sports stories of a generation. We're golf nerds, so I'm not going to say that it's the biggest. I mean, let's be honest, we know our place in the universe, but for the moment, we own it. So where do you want to start?
See, but I saw a lot of people who don't watch golf ever knew exactly what was happening on Sunday and were excited and were emotional for Rory because they were able to connect to seeing him be just a person in the midst of something that he was able to achieve, that it was unobtainable for him. Like, people understand that. They may not understand golf, but I think a lot more of the world was on board on Sunday than you're even saying they were. I think a lot of people know what's going on.
No, I didn't say that. It was the biggest moment, and the moment's gone. That's what I'm saying. It's over. Where do you want to start talking about it? No, I think for a glimpse, you're right. For one split second there, it was the biggest. I'm saying I'm not going to overblow it. I mean, honestly, what's coming around the corner? Is there a draft that's happening pretty soon?
Next week.
Yeah, there you go. But we're already moved on to the draft in many circles. But since we are still here, and it was probably the biggest moment since Tiger, getting his Grand Slam years ago. Let's pick it apart. I mean, you said the human, the man. I called it Wednesday. I put it out on my social media on a story. I said he's going to win. And then I was talking to somebody on their show. I said, I said it all last week. He's going to win. And then when I saw him running down the hill with Poppy, make that putt, and he's already come out the other side. This is him as the complete golfer again. And there's gonna be people going, he won it the way that he had to win it. I mean, even Jack was saying that. So starting with you're
going where I wanted to go to anyways, because I think where you're leading into here is all the comments where, and I don't think Bryson's mad about this, by the way. Bryson just said
we'll get into him in a minute. I'm that thirsty for.
But he just set the table with the facts. But there seems to be this confusion and outrage of people being a little annoyed that he ignored Bryson all day, basically. But that was his sports therapist has come out since and said that was a planned strategy. And let's be honest, remember the stories about Tiger when he was at his greatest? He, like, everyone on tour probably thought that he hated them.
We talked about this last week. It was going to be
So that's fine. Rory had to lock in, and I think Bryson understands. I don't think Bryson was trying to throw shade. Everyone took it as shade, though. You think he was?
I think he was trying to, in a backwards way, try to keep it alive. He's a showman. He admits it. He's a showman. He's an entertainer. There was two things that he dropped in there. All right, we're going to lead with Bryson. I don't mind it. Augusta National is not the U.S. Open, the Masters, and I mean that in so many ways. But for him, he thought he was going to be able to take the gunslinging, mentality, and then all of a sudden, when his playing partner didn't want to reciprocate, he found a little bit of adversary, as they would say. Then he just clammed up. He didn't play his game.
He blamed the greens.
And then he blamed, I didn't have my best stuff this week. Go F yourself. I'm so sick of that.
He was great all the way up until Sunday. So the fact he didn't have his best stuff this week that's a lie.
I think what happened was
the greens on Sunday.
And when people ask him about the story, no, he wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't talk to me. You're a grown ass man. These guys, and it goes back to the Colin Morikawa on what they owe us or don't owe us. And when the money's this big, and you do owe us the emotional, you do owe us the vulnerable, you do owe us. And by the way, if you want a little bit of time, as Shane Lowry said, leading into it, like maybe we should have a few minutes before we talk to the media. Okay, talk to the tournament, talk to your playing committee, talk to the masters, tell them that you want a couple minutes.
At least in these big moments.
Like, but don't act like you don't. I hate this whole we don't owe you anything. Yes, you do. And so Bryson, you know better. You know better. And he knew exactly what he was doing by doing the whole, he wouldn't talk to me. I like they did the whole I didn't have my best stuff, because that's him being a competitor saying, I still was in this.
He's always going to drive to find that edge.
But the whole he wouldn't talk to me. He knows what he was saying. And then let's go ahead. You said you want to lead with Bryson. Thank God. I was going to ask you, what's your opinion on him on the Pinehurst? Did you see the Pinehurst story today where he was yesterday or today?
To try to recreate his U.S. Open.
Well, no, they put a plaque on the course. I think it's the coolest shit in the world.
I didn't know there was a whole ceremony.
Yeah, there's like him. There was like a whole ceremony. Like they let him like put the plaque in the ground and the whole thing, and it was really cool. I bet had to sting after coming off of losing. But at the same time, Bryson knew what the hell he was saying. He was pissed off. He didn't play great, and he was still kind of in the hunt. And I think that's it. We just saw the human side of things. I don't put past too much judgment, but I don't let him off the hook. I don't think Rory did anything wrong. And I think it was whoever was talking, dadgummit, I can't remember who it was, made the reference that he was in a group, and it was the year that like Sergio was going to win. And he's like, I engaged in one guy on the threesome that I was with, but I never talked to Sergio the entire time. He's like, why would I give him the back and forth and the comfortability to know that I'm comfortable with him? Because this is not unheard of. And then the same pro. Yeah. It's the passive aggressive. Yeah. He wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah. No, I get that. I see your point there. I see your point there. I think my bigger, I guess, notice of this of I guess the whole Sunday, the way it all went down, the way I kind of laid it out going into the day was that this was not just a showdown between Rory and Bryson, but this was like kind of the traditional approach to golf, Rory, and the modern golfer in Bryson, and that he's paving the way, and this is going to show everyone, even if he loses, like, what he's doing, the new type of professional golfer, what it can be, all that did not age well on Sunday with the way he played. Unfortunately, I still think there's a lot there, obviously, beyond the course. But the thought that struck me is the potential that this, what I deemed as the modern golfer, the newer generation of golf, doesn't seem to have that killer instinct yet. Because if you think about it this way, Rory did everything to hand this thing away, to puke on himself, to go out of his way to lose this. He did everything on Sunday to do that. And Bryson, instead of, I texted you at one point, the first 3 holes, when that went down, I said, Rory needs to watch out. Bryson's going to smell blood. He's like a shark. He's going to attack here. And he did the opposite. And not only that, but Ludwig made his charge and was right in it, and then pukes on himself on 18. And disappears from it. What it took to push Rory, even though Rory was having a terrible day of golf and backing himself into a Masters win, was Justin Rose from the old guard coming in and playing lights out smart golf and having the round of his life to push Rory. I don't think that's a coincidence that 2 guys from a different kind of thinking of golf with that killer instinct were the 2 at the end, and not some of the younger guys that we thought had a chance. I just think there's something that needs to be learned, and maybe there's some adversity that needs to be had, but there's just not that killer instinct. Somebody should have been chomping at the bit to absolutely step on Rory's throat on Sunday, and no one did other than Rose.
That's because they're not playing each other; they're playing the course. I agree with you.
But they hear the stuff going on. They know what's happening. They know Rory's coming back. And that just means that's golf, an opportunity.
You can't. These guys don't play off of one another as much as we want them to. And I think that goes back to the Bryson. Like, he didn't talk to me. You're right, because he's not playing against you. He's playing against the course. And Augusta National. So I agree with you that the measured traditional kind of approach seemed to have, when you say the overall game, Rory's game is not measured. Some of those shots were not measured. They were outlandish, but they worked. But the Bryson thing, where I think you do have to come at Augusta National with a little more humility than he did. I think he's going to win. You're right. When he surrendered his identity and started laying back on some of those shots, like number 3, that tee shot, he should have, when Rory launched it up there, 30 yards short, Bryson should have been like, yeah, I'm the only guy who can hang with this dude. I might as well launch mine up there too. Because Augusta National, you can get away with being long and wild. Because a lot of times you can just hit in other fairways. You push through. We saw him play from all over the place. Fuck, Rory played from all over the place. All the
danger's always short at Augusta. Water, bunkers, hills, whatever.
The killer instinct piece is. I mean, I don't know what would. It's the hardest course on the planet, and it's the only time, like, everything's different. It's the most unique circumstances. It's not they can't flick a switch. They're human, and I think that's what we saw from Rory's. We assume that there's a killer instinct because Tiger Woods was an asshole for 15 years. Okay.
Fair. And I guess in my head, that was my comparison. The stories
we're never gonna see that from Victor Hovland. We're never gonna see that from Ludwig. People, Scotty Scheffler, we're just not going to see it. People have learned to win with a little more grace than what we thought it used to take. And Tiger himself admits it. Like, looking back, he might have been a little more open, maybe, but that also might have sacrificed. So when I said the only way he knew how with Rory, I love, he said he had that double on the first, and he goes, that kind of settled my nerves, because I think that his comfort zone is not 3 or 4 shots ahead. It's with the sharks nipping at his heels, forcing him to swim just fast enough. That's all he's got to do, is swim just fast enough. And the biggest takeaway for me, and the biggest validation outside of Rory getting that, is Harry Diamond, his caddy, who is, and I didn't know their relationship went back to like 7 years old, the club back home, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. All I know is that Harry's taken his fair share of slings, and I definitely think not fairly. Like, Rory even admitted, like, there's a lot of people who don't know shit about golf, like, to just say that I need to change caddy. They don't know us. They don't know the team. They don't know me. Right. And I effing love what he told him right before the playoff. He said, hey, Monday, we would have taken this. And what he meant was, I know you just effed up everything, but let's pause. We had a one-on-one showdown with somebody we know in a place that we love. And if somebody said, hey, 1 hole for the Masters, these guys, everybody, because they all know all it takes is that break. Who knows? Justin Rose makes that birdie putt. Rory makes that birdie putt. They go to 10. Who the hell knows what happens? So I do like that you put Rosie in there, kind of coming out of nowhere. He didn't come out of, well, I'm not saying, but he went away. He was 36-hole leader. He stumbled on Saturday, and then he came out. You just weren't talking about
him anymore because it was Bryson at the top with Rory, and it became a 2-man show.
You know what it reminds me of? It did, but I was predicting this the whole time. I was like, it's not gonna be a 2-man show. It's just not this course and the whole thing. But that's neither here nor there. It reminded me a little bit of like 2-minute offense in football, where ignorant people sometimes will see like their team just marching. Let's see, why don't we just play like this the whole time? Well,
because you're totally different strategy.
So that killer instinct, to your point, I think is what we saw from Rosie, because he had to go full throttle, wide open, and he just happened to not make that many mistakes. When you have a 2-shot lead, a 3-shot lead, Augusta National tells you, put it in cruise control. Rory doesn't dump it in the water on 13. There's none of this. Like, because he doesn't, there's no way that he dumps because he even bogeyed 14, and then he had 15 sitting there, sticks it on 16, et cetera, et cetera. But the Rosie thing, I want to get to my bets later, but he factors significantly into the weekend I had, and I'm not ashamed to say, we'll get to that later. So Justin Rose did end up being the guy, like you said. It was shocking. Ludwig Oberg was tied for the lead at one point. Patrick Reed was lingering for a while. Who else was up there? Just kind of like maybe Corey Connors was lingering on the front nine a little bit
for a while, and then he had like a double or a triple that just took him out of it. And
I think back nine, it became the Rory, Rose, and Ludwig show for about 2 seconds, and then Ludwig I think he had a quad on 18, something like that. A couple of quads on 18.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was a triple or quad. Either way, what it was is him dropping out of the top 5 by 1 stroke, and that's where I had him bet. I had Ludwig as a top 5, and that 18th hole screwed me. So he finished, T7, T6, whatever, but it was only by 1 stroke.
All right, let's take a couple minutes then and review our bets for the Masters. I will say this: I ended up backdooring my way into a third in my other league. There's 28. after going 0 for 4.
Sweet.
I had the golden sombrero. I did not have any of my golfers make the cut 2 weeks ago. I came into the Masters and I had Patrick Reed and Rory help me to a 3rd place finish there, cash it for $40. That was nice. And then I think it was Saturday or Friday. It was Friday. I checked my DK balance for shits and giggles. I had $5.70. And so I put $2 on Zach Johnson to finish T20, and then he did what he did Saturday. So that $2 turned into 24.
Yeah.
I put Max Homa. I put $1 for Max Homa to finish T20, and that went from $1 to $4. So that was a nice little one. And then I took a shot at Akshay. I thought he might find some lightning in a bottle over the weekend. I think I did T10. Yeah. He didn't get there. And then Davis Riley, same thing. I think I was like, hey, maybe he finds a little bit and go T10.
Hanging in there for a little bit.
So I split those. And then Saturday night, I had 70 cents sitting there. And I was like, let's put it on Justin Rose.
Right.
At one point, when he took the lead Sunday, I checked it. It was going to pay out $175 had he won.
That would have been nice.
And so then I sat there just watching the cash out value fluctuate. It went down to $9 at one point, and I'm like, and then it was up to like $55. And my wife's like, let it ride. And then it was hovering
70 cents at that point. Yeah,
70 cents. And she's like, hey, but then I'm sitting there pulling for Rory. So I checked it. It was sitting there at $37, I think. And so I cashed out at $37 and then rooted for Rory the rest of the way.
Yeah, because you can't be torn in your fandom like that.
Not in a major. If it's this week, the RBC, even though it's a signature event and everything, I'm okay rooting against, the story just for my own well-being and financial.
Yeah.
How'd you make out in the Masters sweepstakes? So $90 for Boudreaux, not a bad day.
Yeah, I did not do good with my bets. Minwoo Lee, I had top 10. He didn't. He just, fell apart.
He was watching over the weekend with us.
Yep. Keegan Bradley also I had top 10, and he just missed out on the cut by 1. Morikawa was my pick to win. I think he finished T10 or somewhere in the top 15. So wasn't far off. Let's see. And then my only other long shot is I picked Cameron Young to make the cut. And that did not happen either. So it was not even
a long shot. Like I would have endorsed Cam Young.
I say long shot because on the shows either Sunday or Tuesday night, he was my long shot to win. So that's why I say long shot. Because I said, well, if I'm going to pick him to be a long shot to win, then he's got to make the cut. I might as well bet him to make the cut.
I think on one of them, and I didn't follow up with this, but sometime last week, I had Nick Dunlap as a lock to make the cut.
Oh my gosh! You know what? No, we need to give Nick Dunlap some love here.
Let's get to it.
Because what happened on Thursday to Nick Dunlap is what was traumatic. Let's be honest. He's 18 over. He shoots 90, dead last by a lot of strokes. And he still comes out on Friday, and not only doesn't withdraw, not only continues to play, goes out there and shoots. What was it, like 4? No, I think he was 4 under at one point. He shoots under par, though. On Friday, and he missed the cut by a lot, and people are going to remember him for the 18 over, but no one's going to, except for guys like us, are going to really remember he didn't quit. And not only did he not quit, he went out there and proved something. And I guess he was swinging and hitting balls like all night long. He was swinging the club in the hotel room or wherever he was at. Him and his caddy were just like hunkered down all night Thursday night, and then Friday night went out there and played some really good damn golf. It's a shame it came after what happened Thursday, but you got to give Nick Dunlap love for not quitting when a lot of people would have just taken their medicine and said, I have a back injury, I'm withdrawing, see you later. So kudos to Nick Dunlap. That's just what you like to see in sports.
Soft serve human beings would have done that. Professional golfers who know that this is essentially scar tissue. I think Nick Dunlap, halfway through that round, he already started mentally saying, okay, it is what it is. Let's get through it. And then we'll get through it again tomorrow. And then we'll come back and let's see. That was his second major or second Masters.
Yes.
Because you remember he won the US Junior Amateur, and then he got to play, and then he won the US Amateur, and then he went pro before the Masters even turned up. But he played his second one as the pro. His invite from the US Amateur was he ended up playing as a pro.
Yeah.
He is 21 years old. He's going to play in a lot more Masters.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was that young. I forget that he's that young, honestly.
And so I do give him a lot of credit for going back out there and playing, but at the same time, I want to be like, really? Credit? Like, rounded Augusta National. What we're talking about is his confidence and his resolve.
Yes.
Same kind of thing. Like, we always talk about, like, oh my God. Well, also, we're not professional golfers. You know, have you ever had a really shitty day at the office? Yeah. And that was a really shitty day at the office for him. So I don't want to like make it, I don't want to sound like it wasn't impressive, but I almost want to be like, and it's like saying, it's like when a NFL quarterback goes out and throws 6 picks one week, and then he's got to play, you know, on a short week on Thursday night. It's like, yeah, okay, that's what. And so I don't. Okay, so yeah, it was.
It's the public eye aspect. That's the only aspect that's different. That's it. And people were talking about
quarterbacks don't play in front of a lot of people.
No, I'm saying they do it. They still go out there and play. Like, that's what I'm saying. They do it too.
Right.
Like, and
it's their job. I'm not impressed by it. I think it was a completely normal thing to do, which is suck it up and go out and play more. I'm proud of him for acknowledging it. Like, yeah, that was a kick in the nuts. And like, yeah, it does, you know, I'm proud of myself. Good for you. Good for you. I don't want to treat it like it was exceptional or extraordinary. I think it was ordinary. I think it was incredibly ordinary for what a professional golfer would do. Sack up, go back out, play the next round, drop some red numbers on there, and walk away going, damn right, I'll see you next year. Because so that's why
we do just see guys withdraw. Like, we do see them withdraw after a bad round, and it's these phantom injuries.
And I would call them soft serve. Yeah, it's the same thing when I see an NBA player or a baseball player. All of a sudden, they're 0 for 3 at the plate, and then, oh, what do you know? My elbow's flared up, and it's like, okay,
and I agree. And I think that's my point, though. I'm appreciating him for not being that.
Me too. Kids, be like Nick Dunlap.
Right, that's all I'm saying. That's why I said this is what you want to see out of professional sports.
100%. Because the kid who misses the 2 free throws to lose to the crosstown rival,
right?
Nick Dunlap. That's what you got to think. Be like, the difference is Nick Dunlap has a few million in the bank. Well, no, I get it. A fall from grace like that. He didn't go out there and shoot 76, 78 and be like, we're working on some things.
Right.
90 is a number that jumps out at you, and you don't often see it. So, you know, tip of the cap to Nick Dunlap. I've been a big Nick fan since he won the U.S. Junior Am, and that was the scariest thing that I think that's happened to me in a long time. I didn't realize
that came out of nowhere.
Holy dog piss!
So yeah, Nick Dunlap does that. He handles his business the right way. But let's get to some more stories as Bud handles the intern. Let's get to some more stories of the Masters this week, because there was a lot, and one is coming out of another thing that people seem to be either annoyed or unsure about, and it's the Sunday pin placement on 16. It was made very clear before the round that they were going to move the pin to the back right. Where for the 50th anniversary from 1975 of Jack's putt, one of his most famous, if not the most famous putt of his career. So they did that. It's usually front left. That's where we've seen the Tiger shot
back
where it rolls
back left.
Well, back left. Sorry, I said front left. Back left. It's usually back left. Where we've seen the famous Tiger shot, you know, come whipping around the curve and drop in, and it does make for exciting shots. And people were complaining that they were missing that and that they were annoyed by that. My answer to that is simply that, one,
get over it.
One, get over it. Two, it was made very clear that that's what it was going to be, and that was the reason why it was going to be. So it's not like it was this kept secret and surprise to everybody. Like, the story was told. And then three, as golf fans, isn't one of the main things technically that we hang our hat on for enjoying the PGA is the historical moments and honoring them at every turn that we can in golf. So, like, why are we getting upset? I mean, and obviously not we, but like, why are people getting upset over a damn pin placement on the 16th hole? It's just silly to me, because
when you say the people, you mean the internet. The internet got upset. Nobody in real life, any reasonable human being, when like, oh, here's the thing.
Well, I
if
say
you're
it because I heard the guys on 98.5, the sports sub yesterday talking about it. They were mad too. Like, so they're out there on the radio saying they're mad and whatnot. And it shocked me because one of them was Hardy, who we've had on the show before.
Yeah, can't imagine why guys on drive time radio. Listen, I'm not because they got an audience 10 times bigger than me, but can't imagine why people would throw something controversial out there or try to make controversy out of something that there's not.
And
here's why they did that, because golf fans, and yeah, I am going to be a bit of an elitist here. Golf fans are people who understand or knew, like you said, paid attention. Oh, they're paying homage to Jack, 50-year anniversary. Kind of cool. Man, it's a Sunday tradition. Oh, get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that kind of like intentional ignorance. So when you understand that, oh, they're doing it to pay respect on the 50-year anniversary to the greatest champion that place has ever known, you think that you get to take umbrage? Like, who are you? Who are any of us? The Godfather spoke and they said, I appreciate the gesture. There you go. Game, set, match. That's what I have to say about that. I've been waiting for this pin placement question because I am kind of curious. Like, who are these people? Like,
it's the internet, it's the talking heads. That's what it is.
It's people who it's a slow freaking news day. So let's see if we can't try to gin something up because oh crap, Rory won. I freaking love what he said at his presser. He opened with, so what are we going to talk about next year, guys? And I love it because it's like, go sit on it and rotate. So it's the same thing. Because we can't possibly throw shade at Bryson. Oh no, not the YouTube darling boy. I'm going to be very clear.
Shade at Bryson.
I've been throwing shade at Bryson. I'm a big Bryson fan, but I also from an analytical level, that's where they should be pointing their kind of ire. What's up his butt? Why can't you be gracious in loss? Though, because you know what? Also, Rory was not very gracious in his loss last year when he just pieced out. So, but that doesn't mean that, they're pissed off about the 16th green. Again, if you understand, even when it's this drives me nuts when people go, I don't understand why. I don't understand why you wouldn't just this. And then they hear the reason and they go, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. So you weren't saying you don't understand in any form of curiosity. You just want to beat the hook. Yeah, you're not interested in the truth. You just want to bitch about it so people can either,
you can't handle the truth.
It is the least controversial part of this entire tournament. Was that 16th pin placement. It was the biggest, the best kiss. And I even thought that Rory's like, yeah, it's pretty cool that I get to attach my win with the anniversary of that. I stuck it tight on 16, like, So yeah, I'm not even gonna say all due respect because they don't give a shit about my respect. Anybody who's trying to make hay out of the 16th pin position needs to stick to other sports or find another story within golf. Here's another big story that came out of the Masters.
That's why I asked that question because I wanted that.
It's just that's weak sauce.
I led you right into that because that's
weak sauce, dude. That's I ain't got time for that. Here's what I do have time for. You referenced it earlier with these guys and the roars and having to wait and just kind of see things. No more phones at golf events.
Yeah, I want to hear that. I want to hear this reasoning. I'm curious. You piqued my interest with this, but I wanted to wait for the to dive in.
As a society, we've had this thing for about that long in like the evolution of. I mean, I remember when iPhones came out. I remember my buddies getting iPhone. Like
we've had them for 25 years, pretty much. Like
smartphones, and smartphones have been widespread since the 90s. The BlackBerry was the first one that really got out there. We still are learning how to responsibly use these things, and we've created reasons to go, well, no, I have to have them because. And Augusta National and these high-end super secret private schools that a lot of successful people seem to send their kids to, they don't allow screens. Why? Two reasons. Well, the school thing is because we know what kind of developmental bullshit that they can get into. And I'll go to bat with anybody on this one. Come at me, bro. Try to defend that they should have access to these all day. Not going to happen. The research is already there. The Augusta National side of things, they haven't bent there. So how do they do it? How do families possibly go if they don't have their cell phones? How can you bring your kids if you don't have your cell phones? Okay, then you don't get to come. All right, fine. We figured it out. Yeah, when you want something bad enough, you figure it out. You want to get in the Masters. And I know why the PGA Tour won't do it because it's so damn easy to then use it in other ways. Here's your ticket. Here's everything you need to know. Here's this. Here's that.
Well, and that's literally what they just used to solve the waste management issue with the whole ticket fiasco from last year. Like they
hard passes.
yeah, and they switched it this year to
Shocker.
digital phones, and that was their solution and to solve
Great.
the mess up from last year.
But that's the product. The product of the Masters is that. And so I'm glad you brought up the waste management, because you can say, why shouldn't we have a party hole at every, sometimes it's unique.
No. See, we've talked about that before. Not every tournament needs that.
So does not every tournament need a phone-free manual? I don't even think you have to go manual scoreboard. I think you can still have the digital everything else, and instead give people just, your ticket has your QR code and whatever it is, oh, this is the pavilion you're allowed to get into. It just drives me nuts that we insist upon, oh, we got to have it. Oh, we have to, when we've seen now that, and we're hearing the qualitative and the quantitative people on TV, like tuning into the Masters more, and not because it's the Masters, because also they understand that like these roars and then, oh, what happened? And then like the reactions are way, way, way more genuine, down to the part where these scoreboard operators will wait to make sure that they're not going to post scores that they know are going to get a roar.
Right.
Until people aren't hitting.
Because we got that great moment, if you saw the video, of the crowd around that manual scoreboard. The second they put up that Rose birdied 18, they popped that 11 up there for Rose, and the place went wild. Like that, you don't get with just a digital flash. Like that manual scoreboard is like perfect.
So maybe it's just for Sundays, maybe it's just the weekends, but I definitely think that the PGA Tour should look at, and I mean, ironically enough, they're kind of going the other direction with including more technology on the course, but still a couple of things about the Masters. What do you think Rory serves next year at the Champions Dinner?
Bangers and hash. No,
it's going to be the most bland.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's been in America for so long, although I think his favorite pizza is Domino's. You remember that story from a few years ago?
Right.
What else from the Masters needs addressing?
Hold on. I gotta check my notes, because there was one other thing I feel like we didn't talk about.
I'm sure there's plenty we didn't talk about.
Well, yeah, definitely. Oh no, we actually hit everything I thought we were going to talk about. So yeah, no. No, I guess the only other thing from the Masters is Sunday was weird for me. Sunday was weird because I went to bed Saturday almost like it was Christmas Eve. I was like giddy. I couldn't wait. All Sunday morning, I was just freaking giddy. I couldn't wait. Like I was really annoying around the house because I was just in an overly good mood.
You were really annoying on text message too.
Sorry,
you were. No, I'm not being an asshole. I'm like, it was fun to see you kind of do this. Where I'm like, damn right, yeah, this is what Sunday.
I was going wild. I was wilding out because I was hyped, and maybe this is my own fault because I hyped myself up so much. And then the way the tournament started on Sunday, with the Rory dog, whatever, I was so hooked, and you know who else was? Everyone else was hooked. Anna was hooked. She was watching it with me, and she was like, "Oh, we're gonna have to," because we had met my parents for lunch, and then we went to this X Golf, so that's golf simulator place. They didn't have any bays open.
I played X Golf in Portland. Place is dope.
Yeah. So we ended up, we were just sat at the bar to watch. I said, well, this is golf fans here, so we just sat at the bar and watched it. And she was hooked. She was like, oh, we're gonna sit there for like 5 hours to watch this whole round. And I said, yeah, I'm not missing a shot. That's why I said we can either go out or we can go home. But once I put that on, I ain't turning it off. But then that's the way it started. She got locked in too. The middle is where it fell apart in the middle, though. It did. It got, because then Rory took the lead back. He's back up by 3, and I think I did it to myself because, like I said, I had played it up in my head and to everybody else that this was the Bryson and Rory battle that we've always wanted for the years now, and that's just not how it happened. And to my own, I guess, blame here, I failed. It took me way too long to start noticing the guys who were creeping up the leaderboard. It took me too long to notice Ludwig. It took me too long to notice Justin Rose. I was like, oh yeah, they're having a nice day, but they're never going to catch Rory, so it doesn't matter. Like, this thing's about to be signed, sealed, and delivered. And then obviously the way it all happened, the way it came back, I was standing, I was like pacing circles. I was being way too loud in this place, but at that point, everyone else was too. It ended perfectly. It was a roller coaster ride, though, and I failed myself in the middle.
I think I picked up golf pretty much like big time. It was summer after 6th grade. And so it would have been 1 or 2 years later was the Masters, when it was the 96 Masters. Greg Norman, 6-shot lead going into the final round, implodes. Absolutely fucking implodes. And here comes Nick Faldo with, I think it was like a 68 or 67 to just blow by him, when really he could have just shot even par. Jordan Spieth a few years ago, I mean, about 10 years ago now, I think 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2015. I think they mentioned
cruising, disaster. Cliches are grown for a reason. They're not just, I say like stereotypes and cliches come out of repeated patterns of behavior. It's not like there was a draft, although the Chappelle Show racial draft, that's pretty about the closest you can get. You should go watch that on YouTube. It's funny as fuck.
It's hilarious.
But there's the cliche, or the saying, the Masters starts on the second 9 Sunday, not the back 9, because that's too close to backside. Is
exactly.
Let us know the second 9 Sunday. That's when the Masters starts, because that's when the Masters starts. I mean, Rory's tee shot on 10. You heard him talk about it. You saw his body language. He thought that he had rope hooked it in the trees, and then it took him a second to he slumps, and then he sees it, and he kind of stands up like, oh wait, and everybody goes freaking nuts, because everybody knew that was one of the first dragons he had to slay on the backside.
Sure.
He gets to 11, that ball's rolling to the water, and everybody was thinking it. Here we go. That's Rory's done. And then it stops. And it's like, oh shit, Rory's going to get his luck. Bryson dunks it in the water. Game over. Here we go, Rory. He chips it up, misses, makes bogey. No big deal though, because Bryson's in the water, like you said. And I think that's when people failed to notice Reed, Rose,
100%.
Oberg,
I fell into that.
All this kind of stuff. And so 12 comes, Rory, like Jack says, right over that middle bunker, toss it, 2-putt, get the hell out of there. Does it. 13 comes. Rory pulls out the 3-wood, and it's like, okay, he's just going to try to get it out there controlled. Because again, the famous meltdown, he rope hooks it in the water, puts it out in the fairway. 239. I'm sitting there at home going, 239 for Rory McIlroy, even with a side hill lie, is he can hit that with a 4-iron, 5-iron, probably stretch a 6-iron if you want to rope hook it out there. So my thought was like, he's just going to clear that creek, and then he'll deal with it on the other side. He laid up. Okay, smart play. The fuck is he doing taking on that pin? And I think that is when Jack said he lacks discipline. That's what he was talking about.
Sure.
He wasn't talking
in very specific moments, not an entire character flaw, but
right. And he wasn't talking about the shot on 15 where he's like, why isn't he chipping out? And he slings it out there 209 with a 7-iron on a hook. And it's almost the same reason that Tiger would have done it, because they can. Doesn't mean that they don't agree that it's the prudent shot. And, maybe next time around when Rory finally has less pressure on him, he does chip out.
Right.
But he had to go pedal to the metal. He had to be the magician, the hero, the swashbuckling guy that got him to where he is, for better or for worse. And you heard him through the heartbreak last year say, I know my game's good enough. All I'm taking away from this is that I'm giving myself opportunities. Yeah. And so when he finally, put it in the water on 13, I think that's exactly what Jack's saying. He's like, that's the discipline. You should have gone 20 feet, 30 feet to the left of that and just put it on dry land. But you were throwing a dart, because that's what you do. You go for the throw. Right. That's the killer instinct that you were talking about.
Correct.
The problem is he just didn't connect the shots. Yeah. So when the killer instinct doesn't work, then you have to go to resilience. And that's what I think was really the biggest thing. He dunks it in the water on 13. Then he bogeys 14. Let's not forget that.
I know.
I mean, and who I think I might have been one of the only people on these chats saying, not dead yet. And then we saw what happened, and then he takes it home in the playoffs. So I think that had to be the way that he won it. He wasn't going to win it going away. I don't think he already did that in other majors. I think for him to get his Masters, it had to be brutal. Like, it's almost like, oh, you want this? The golf gods all got together and said, we're going to let you into the club, but we're going to beat the shit out of you on the way. And if you're still here standing in the morning, all right, I guess we'll let you in, because you're right. They threw everything they could at him, and he tried his hardest to fuck it up.
He really did.
He didn't. So who are we?
So here's I want to throw one, and I know we don't usually like doing ifs. What ifs? I want to throw one if here into
I'll
this
do hypotheticals
because I think this leads into what I think this kind of leads us into what this season
Check
could
on the intern.
potentially be. But what if Rory did lose on that playoff hole to Rose? What if Rose hit his and Rory missed his? Like, obviously, the storyline, the easy storyline this week would have been, well, Rory chokes again. Rory chokes again.
That's a choke.
Well, 100% it would have been. That would have been. My question is, though, at that point, would you have given up on him ever getting the Masters, though?
No.
Like, would that type of loss, after the type of losses he's had before in his history there, would that have been enough for you? Or did we learn enough from Phil Mickelson finally getting his white whale?
Rocco Media. So, okay, 2008, Tiger Woods, Torrey Pines, broken leg, 18-hole playoff.
Right.
Rocco Media.
That was one of my most memorable moments as being a golf fan. That turned me into a serious golf fan. That entire sequence. That was the moment.
Tiger Woods won a fucking major on a broken leg.
Mm-hmm.
That was the closest Rocco Media was ever going to get to winning a major.
There's a reason he disappeared after that.
If Rory, well, also age. If Rory doesn't come through on Sunday, he's not Rocco Media. He's Phil Mickelson. I think he eventually gets his. Justin Rose, I wouldn't even sleep on him. We're seeing the Overton window shift for what's an acceptable age for a major winner.
100%, yeah.
And so, I mean, Tiger kind of getting his glory lap, at 46 or whatever it was. I think Phil at 51 or 50 at the PGA, and then Rosie, going toe to toe with the greatest player of his generation. And I do think that he earns and keeps that forever and ever.
What is Rose on? Is he 49? What is he?
44. So Rosie's of the Tiger era. Rosie actually kind of came onto the scene after winning the amateur, and then he comes to Augusta National. He's low am. Right. Then he has that. I love his mentality too. He's like, after I lost the playoff to Sergio, I went on to become world number one after that. I played some of my best golf.
I remember Rose in the old Tiger Woods games on PlayStation.
Oh man, Justin Rose, he's a class act too. So I think what we're going to see is, first of all, I think that might have secured him a spot at the Ryder Cup one more round. I think Rome was going to be, but I think you were looking at him like, first of all, he might even be in the points. So he's so well. Ryder Cup. He's going to be back. He's going to play well again at Augusta National. He's going to make another run. Yeah, he's going to be one of those like years from now, like and you know what that brings up? Oh, the finger, not the finger. So yeah, before we close on Rose, Rose 100%. We're gonna see Rose compete, even if he stops competing at other tournaments. He's going to continue to compete at the Masters. We see it year in and year out with these guys who keep showing up at the Masters, because it's once you know that course, and you can handle that course, you know what to do. So Rose will be one of those guys. We went way too long in the show. We have to pivot quickly to Bernhard Langer. Like the fact that we went this long, I know there's a lot to talk about, but it just the Rose talk just reminded me of that. Bernhard Langer's last Masters was this week. I said it on Twitter. I'm actually glad he missed the cut, because I think what him missing the cut allowed was for his moment. What I enjoyed about Friday in the broadcast was the end of the round, and Bernhard Langer getting that attention, which I know he would have gotten anyways on a Sunday, even if he had made the cut. But really, all Friday night, that became about him. We got the moments of him walking off, all the congratulations from the members, from the players. We got everything about Bernhard Langer, which he deserves. I just feel like if it happened on Sunday, that would have lasted for like an hour or two, and then obviously the attention would have been shifted to the winner of the tournament or whatever the other storylines are. But it's not that Bernhard Langer, I think, would have like fallen to the wayside, but I just don't think he would have gotten as big of the spotlight as he did on Friday. So I'm personally glad he missed the cut, not because I wanted to see him fail, but because I wanted to see him get as much attention as possible. I don't disagree. At first I was thinking to myself, like, he's going to get his flowers no matter what, but you're right. The way that they can plan it so that he's walking up 18 with like a sunset kind of situation. Exactly. The fact that he had a putt to make the cut. So the fact that was even part of the story would kind of made it majestic. And, he rides off into the sunset as, I mean, the greatest German golfer of all time. First of all, he was the first European to win the Masters. He broke that barrier. He's one of the most successful golfers, winningest golfers of all time, if you take in all of his PGA Tour Champions victories, which I think most people would. So, good for Bernhard. He's just been steady. He's another Gary player. I think he's going to play on the Champions Tour for probably another five years, maybe 10. He's going to come back for these par threes, but I think that was the appropriate kind of exit for him. No low amateur this year.
They actually know what
they don't award it unless you make the cut.
See, and I never noticed that before, but you're right. There was no low amateur. So I guess if we were going by the numbers, it was Justin Hastings.
Justin Hastings was the lowest.
But you're right. He wasn't honored.
He does not get the low am honors from Augusta National. He doesn't get. And he
wasn't getting to awkwardly sit in the cabin next to Rory, as obviously the spotlight on Rory. I do like seeing the low amateur part, because I think that's sometimes for those guys, their moment. Unfortunately, we don't always see those guys who get that low amateur really pop again, and that's so I like seeing it. But if you don't make the cut, I guess I get that. I've just never actually noticed that in the past, that they only do it if you make the cut. So even more credit to Neil Shipley last year.
Rosie is plus 6,000 to win this week.
That is interesting. That was the same odds Min Woo Lee was this past week at the Masters.
We're not going to start looking at. We will delve back into some sports golf betting in the coming tournaments and whatnot. But this Masters was just too good to not dive into. We had a little Masters party on Saturday. I made homemade pimento cheese sandwiches. I looked up the Masters recipe. I looked up about 4 or 5 different copycat recipes and then amalgamated them all into one that looked good. They were a success. Highly recommend the pimento cheese sandwich. Phenomenal. It's fucking pimento cheese. It's not like it's rocket science here. It's cheese on cheese with a little bit of cheese and some mayonnaise and some this, that, and the other. So, and chopped up pimentos. Again, it's not rocket surgery.
Did you make any azaleas?
I did not. But another thing though from the Masters, because this is great television and podcasting, people are still tuned in. They have stepped up their game with their digital everything. I don't know if you noticed these IBM shot maps that they unveiled.
Yes.
That you can press a button and it shows every shot from that player or from this tournament.
Oh, yeah, I was playing around with the app a bit because I had to.
And then the on the range access, I think that's another thing that was
such
just
a big story this year.
We're just such geeks. We're such nerds. We want more and more and more of it.
He hit 200 something shots. He played an entire tournament on the range before round 1. It's but it's not the same.
Rory, J Rose, P Reed though, just sneaking in. Patrick Reed sneaking in with a 3rd. How about Scotty Scheffler, 4th? I mean,
so that's the thing. Scotty, for all intents and purposes, this week Scotty was kind of in the background. I know obviously he came into the week as the storyline looking to repeat, but once things got going,
I don't know how many people had Jason Day top 10. That was that he snuck in there. Max Homa, nobody really had him playing that well.
But I loved seeing him playing that well. It was so good to see him
great.
back at it. I very much, because I do love Max Homa.
So
and what was also kind of cool was obviously the guys over at at Millie Goats had Michael Kim on last week, heading into the Masters, and then Michael Kim is continuing. He was doing his Masters diaries all weekend, which if you haven't checked those out, go follow him on Twitter and check that out from this past week, because not only was it some insight to the course and the way that he attacked it, but it was really just some insight into his fandom for the game of golf, his whole entire experience of just being at Augusta and all that. So it's just cool. Just, if you're into that type of stuff, it's a good follow.
I'm trying to find what makes the RBC Heritage this week such a big deal. Invitational status by the PGA Tour in 2024. Yeah,
Probably
I don't know
at Harbortown.
Well, Harbortown's dope. It's a resort. I mean, Hilton Head, it's a resort thing. It's beautiful. Jack Nicklaus and Pete Dye course. Well, Pete Dye course with the help of Jack Nicklaus.
Just one of those recognizable, picturesque courses.
The finishing hole is one of the most recognizable with that par 4 with that like very generous landing area for the drive between the red on the marsh and the lighthouse in the background. I do think it's a smart move by the PGA Tour for putting an invitational or whatever we want to call it, signature event right after the Masters. I think we saw that a few years ago with John Rahm going, of course I'm going to play because they want to see the Masters champion. That's what they're here for. Correct. Rory, I don't think is in the field this week. I think I think
you're right, actually.
Rory withdraws from RBC. And
I think did he withdraw?
Well, I think Rory might 23. No, is he in the field?
So he was in the field last I looked, but if he's since withdrawn, he was in the field to start.
I don't think I don't think he's playing this week. Listen to Jamie, pull that up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You can hear Rory McIlroy isn't playing the RBC Heritage. That's 15 hours ago.
Yeah, and because I think he said he's going to go home and see his parents. Good for him. We might not see him again until Quail Hollow. But looking ahead, we've got the RBC Heritage, and then what do we got between now and the PGA Championship? What does this schedule look like? Jamie, pull the schedule up on the PGA Tour.
While we pulled that up, the big storyline out of the RBC Heritage this year, which we've seen before in the past, but they're doing it again, is they're allowing rangefinders this week at RBC to test if it has an effect on pace of play. I'm personally perfectly fine with them using the rangefinders. I also, though, don't really think it's going to have a massive effect on pace of play. I think no matter what, whether that number's in a book or whether that number's digitally in the binoculars in front of them, they are still going to discuss and work their way completely around that number and placement. And like they're still going to have to look at their book for what the green's doing and what this is doing. And like, I don't think it's going to have an effect on pace of play, or at least not the effect that the PGA is looking for.
I think it will, because it's not just about I'm standing in the middle of the fairway and let me just gun the flag and then look down at my book and I know where because you're right but there's gonna be other areas when they're off the path or when they're out in the woods and they need to just do some of those quick calculations. How far is it to that bunker? What do I have to do to clear that? That's where I think it will help a little bit. But I don't know. So we got the RBC Heritage coming up, and then Zurich. We'll see Rory.
So we should see Rory because him and Shane are definitely going to. Which I love Shane's reaction to Rory winning. By the way, that was
that was pretty cool.
He looked like a brother. Like that was just a cool reaction. That was one of my favorites. I love that.
All right, so we are so it's May 15th. We'll work backwards because we're at the point. We're at the point in the season now where I just live one major to the next. So May 15th, PGA Quail Hollow. Mark it. I'm going to go ahead. I might go ahead and put a little bit of love on Rory right now just to do it.
I still got Rory sitting in my one and done as an option. I'm pretty sure I'm going to save him for that week.
The week prior to that is a signature event, the Truist Championship, formerly the Wachovia, and this is going to be at the Philadelphia Cricket Club because normally it is at Quail Hollow where the PGA is going to be, and then before that the Byron Nelson, and then before that Zurich, and then next week or this week obviously the RBC Heritage. So we have some fun because we'll get into the team golf talk with Zurich. We will recap the RBC Heritage next week, and it won't be too. We might look at some future odds at the PGA just to see if there's anything that looks juicy to lock in early. But other than that, man, I got to say, if this is what the golf gods have in store for us, if this is their opening salvo, we got a little bit of Rory, the stars aligning. I think we're in for one hell of a year. Not to mention, biggest story for me personally, though, a little sneaky story was Brooksy's collapse on 18. I had him as a dark horse. I had Brooks kept, and he goes and makes a fucking quad.
I know that was 36. That was hard to watch. That was hard to watch.
That is. I mean, that's Augusta National, man. I don't even want to know. Funny enough, my best friend texted me. Shout out Jeff. He texted he texted me too, but it was my buddy Christian, my golf buddy Christian from last summer. A good camp friend. Look at us, about to land the plane, and I just brought up camp. Wow. And he said, "Could you beat Nick Dunlap today at Augusta National?" And I wrote back. This was Thursday when he was shooting 90, and I said, "If I'm playing members tees, yes, I'm breaking 90."
Right, that's different. Yeah.
I mean, and well, even that I'm smiling because I'm like, yeah, I can members tees. I've seen the scorecard, the members tees. I'm pretty confident that I could sneak enough pars and avoid enough doubles to break 90 around Augusta
and
National.
I'm shooting like 130 from members tee at Augusta.
I'm shooting myself if you don't walk off the course after 9. I've seen you play, and no disrespect, I don't need to be like, if you go off 10, I'll go off 1, and then maybe we can. No, I'm just kidding. I would walk Augusta National with you anytime, brother.
Yes. I was just gonna say something. And I forget. What?
Last question for you.
What?
Did we talk about this last week? Which would you rather? No, I think this came. Would you rather have 24 hours at Augusta National?
Oh, I've heard similar ones. I want to hear this one. Okay, 24 hours.
Okay, so option A.
Mm-hmm.
You get to play 18 holes of golf at Augusta National, and you get to pick your three people. But
well, first of all, is it 18 holes or 24 hours? Because if it's 24 hours, I'm playing like.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I got ahead of myself. 18 behind door number 1. 18 holes of golf.
Okay.
You get to pick your foursome. But I'm talking about like you get driven straight up to the first tee, you get out, your caddy's there, you play on 18, you putt out, they pick you up, you drive off the property. That's it. You get to play the course, period.
Okay, sure.
Or you get 24 hours on the property, all access to anywhere you want to go, anything you want to do, see, touch, whatever, but you are not allowed to hit one golf shot. You can walk the course. Mm-hmm. You are not allowed to make one swing, but you get 24 hours on the property. What are you doing?
I'm playing.
No, I'm taking 24 hours. I'm going to take a bath and I'm going to take a bath in Rays Creek. I'm going to go drink a bottle of wine in Eisenhower's cabin. I'm going to go down to the pro shop and fuck around and get some gear. I'm going to go walk I want full access to the media center. I want the tunnels underneath. I want to know where the bodies are buried. I will sacrifice the ass kicking that is playing Augusta National for the opportunity. I'll sign an NDA. I don't even need to make money off this. I want to know myself, the golf guy, like, how do they do it? And, what is the most expensive bottle of wine in their legendary collection? Where is President Eisenhower's desk that's above the pro shop? That's what I'm here for.
And I get that. I don't know, because I'm a shitty golfer. I think it would feel so cool to be just on a hollow ground of like the greatest golfers of all time.
Oh,
like that's all. Like that's what. Like I know you can be on it, but like I'd want to swing. I wouldn't. I'm
gonna walk barefoot at 2 a.m. smoking a bone down the ninth fairway.
I mean, that does sound fun. It does sound fun.
All right, land the plane, brother.
Land the plane. The Masters was a huge success. At the end of the day, no matter how you feel about how Rory won it, he won the damn thing. It's over, and I think he's gonna now. He's poised to go on a tear for the rest of this year.
We gotta get Jordan his Grand Slam now. Let's get him in the club.
Right. Yeah. So be scared of Rory the rest of the year. We're looking for Jordan, and we'll see what happens. We love you guys. We'll see you every Tuesday right here on that Sports Podcast Network at 8:00, and then on Wednesdays you can hear us on Golfer Gang on Spotify, all your podcast platforms. Acorn Hills, as always. Nate, love you guys over there. We will see you next week, everyone. Stay